Humans are curious creatures, constantly exploring nature and searching for new discoveries. But what happens when curiosity encroaches on the lives of nature's ecosystems? We can view all types of creatures in controlled environments, but those animals aren't always caged in enclosures. When we come face to face with them in nature, there are no bars to separate us from the teeth, claws, and the carnivorous nature of the animals we've always viewed behind glass. Snakes range in size and danger, but the small creatures can instill such fear. That fear of snakes has its own term, ophidiophobia. One of the 5 largest snake species in the world, African rock pythons, measures at 10 to 16 feet long with bodies covered in dark blotches and jagged stripes. Their scales are brown and yellow and small with distinctive, smooth markings. With dark eyes and heat-sensitive pits around their lips, they can detect warm-blooded prey even in total darkness. These slithery creatures are found throughout the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, from Senegal east to Ethiopia and Somalia, in forests, savannas, grasslands, and rocky areas. The name and description of this creature alone can instill fear, but they are considered to be a rather solitary species. They stay close to the ground, but can also climb or hang from trees and can be submerged in water for 20 minutes or longer. It's when they are threatened that the vicious creature will attack. Before attacking, the African rock python will hiss as a warning or aim to bite before their kill tactics ensue. If continuously provoked, they will bite down on their prey with sharp, non-venomous teeth, causing immense pain. Then the snake will hold the prey in place, coiling around it and suffocating it as it breathes in and out. When this snake is captured and caged or removed from its natural habitat, it will lash out and attempt attacks on the handler. While human kills are rare, they do occur, and have even swallowed children whole. On August 5, 2013, in New Brunswick, Canada, 2 brothers, Noah, age 4, and Connor, age 6, were playing with their friend and the animals at a farm owned by their friend's grandfather. After a long day of playing with their friend, their mother and her boyfriend took them home to pack some things up for a sleepover with the friend they'd spent the entire day with. The boys were excited to spend some more time with the friend and packed up their things before walking over to their friend's house for a fun night. In all their excitement, they had no idea of the terror they would soon face. Noah and Connor's friend stayed in an apartment with his father. The friend's father owned an exotic pet shop below the apartment where they were staying called Reptile Ocean. This shop was a unique place where people would come and view or purchase animals from all around the world, including snakes, crocodiles, and other reptiles. After a fun night of playing, laughing, and exploring the shop downstairs, the 2 boys fell asleep on the living room floor, exhausted from the amusing night they'd had. Only 8 feet from where the boys were sleeping, something of nightmares was patiently waiting for its time to pounce. Only 8 feet from where the boys were sleeping, a 14-foot-long, 100-pound African rock python was caged. While sleeping, the python had escaped from its cage and entered into the apartment air ducts through a hole in the ceiling, left for maintenance on the home. But the ducts were not built to hold something of such weight. The air duct collapsed under the weight of the snake, causing the snake to land directly on the mattress Noah and Connor were sleeping on. The boys were not awakened by the crash, but the snake, startled and disturbed, thrashed and bit and strangled the 2 boys. Later on that evening, their friend's father and owner of the Reptile Ocean, Jean-Claude Savoy, walked into the living room to check on the boys. He looked up, spotting the hole in the ceiling, and switched on the living room light. What he found was an image in his mind that he can never forget. He was disgusted, seeing the boys strangled and bloody on his living room floor. He was horrified and confused and immediately called the police, stepping outside because he couldn't bear to look at the scene any longer. When the police finally came, he was in complete shock. He was pacing back and forth, having trouble speaking, with blood on his hands and clothes. He shared that the snake had escaped from its cage and he believed that it had killed the 2 boys. But after walking in on the dreadful scene, the snake was nowhere to be found. The police immediately assumed Jean-Claude Savoy had committed a homicide because of his erratic behavior and the oddity of that type of snake's murderous actions. Later on, while investigating the situation, Lee Parker, a facilities manager at a large reptile zoo in Canada, was stunned at the snake's behavior. "Snakes like these do not go on killing sprees," he said. "It doesn't make sense to me." The police questioned Savoy and officially ruled out a homicide as the explanation behind the murder. So, Savoy led the police to the apartment where the killings had taken place, and they were able to find the python hiding in the apartment. Savoy was able to get the python back into his cage by allowing it to wrap around its arm. Later, the python attempted to escape from the enclosure again, looking to return to the living room and to feed on its victims. While the police were compiling evidence and completing reports, Savoy made the decision that he needed to tell no one Connor's mother. He walked next door where the boys had lived and pounded on the door. He was feeling the urgency and dread of having to devastate the boy's mother and partner. When she opened the door, Savoy looked in her eyes and said, "Oh my God, your 2 kids are dead." Their mother was panicked and confused by the news, so her boyfriend went to the apartment where the travesty had happened. When he returned, he simply said, "It's true. It's a nightmare, but it's true." They both broke down completely at the horror of their loss. In the aftermath of the murders, the python was euthanized and Savoy was arrested in February the following year. He was charged with criminal negligence for not preventing Noah and Connor's deaths. He was found not guilty in his jury trial. The most aggressive bear is not one that you'd find in the mountains or hiding behind trees, but one that lurks on snow caps and blends in with the crisp snow and ice. Polar bears. Adult male polar bears can weigh anywhere between up to 1,300 pounds, but some weigh close to double that. They are exceptionally fast, running at speeds of 25 miles per hour, clearly outrunning the average human. Their bite is the strongest of all bear species, ripping and tearing apart its prey with 7 times more strength than that of humans. The British Schools Exploring Society, a UK-based youth development group that provides young people with intense adventure and self-discovery experiences, traveled to the Norwegian archipelago of Svalbard. They had previously visited the Amazon rainforest, India, Kenya, and Papua New Guinea, but they had no idea that this trip would end drastically differently. In the Norwegian archipelago, polar bears outnumber people 5 to 4. Instead of an experience of adventure and growth into the wilderness, the youth group was tortured with trauma they'd face for the rest of their lives. 80 people went on the expedition, hoping to explore the beautiful nature and bond with one another. They broke into smaller groups so everyone could see what they wanted to, and also so no one got lost or split up from a larger group. One of the groups with 13 individuals set up camp near a glacier 25 miles away from a settlement in the area known as Longyearbyen. They set up tents, made a fire to get warm, and started prepping for their dinner. But they were not unprepared. To be sure no predators would be a threat to their safety, they set a tripwire around their camp that triggered a flare to alert them to danger. After sharing stories and laughs with one another, they began to grow tired after the day of traveling and exploring and decided to get in their tents and head to bed. Only a couple hours later, the group was jolted awake by the sounds of horrified screams. Peering outside from the gaps in their tents before running out, they witnessed the sight of other group members being torn to pieces by a polar bear. What they did not know was that a starving polar bear had gotten through their trap and stomped into one of the tents, only to find 3 humans asleep. The bear ripped the tent to shreds as it dragged Horatio Chappell out, killing him instantly. It then turned its attention to find another tent occupant, Patrick Flinders. Patrick swung at the bear, hitting its nose to confuse and distract him while he aimed to jump on the bear and take it down. But the bear fought back. With a swing of its arm, the bear knocked Patrick to the ground and slashed its claws across his face. With Patrick thrown off and teeth bared, the polar bear bit Patrick's head and arm, severely injuring him. But Patrick was able to escape. 2 of the troop leaders, Michael Reed and Andrew Ruck, rushed over to aid the friends and attempted to distract and fight the bear. Michael realized quickly that a rifle was stashed near their tent and ran back quickly to retrieve it. When he turned back around towards the bear, gun aimed at its head, he couldn't understand why the gun wasn't firing until he realized the safety was off. The bear took this opportunity as a moment of weakness and began swinging at Michael and Andrew, causing serious gashes and wounds before Michael aimed the rifle at the bear's head, killing it instantly. Deep breaths were taken. Eyes darted and hearts raced as the leaders and other group members stared at the traumatizing scene in front of them. Someone grabbed the satellite phone and called for help. Soon after, they saw a helicopter approaching in the distance. Rescuers on the copter grabbed the injured kids, as well as Horatio, who had already passed. The polar bear was also loaded into the transit, where it was flown to a city on the mainland of Norway for an autopsy. Through the following day, those who were injured endured surgery under anesthesia and tried to stop the panic thoughts and reliving of the horror they had experienced the night before. During an investigation later taking place, police found a combination of factors that led to the unfortunate death of Horatio, along with the injuries of others. The group leaders of the expedition had failed to assign a night watchman, and the tripwire they had set up ended up failing because of the heavy cord used. The group also had a shortage of pen flares, which shoots flares up to 50 meters to frighten approaching bears. If the kids on the expedition had been given flares, it's possible that Horatio and his teammates could have fought off the bear more successfully. But in the end, assigning blame does not reverse the loss or trauma faced by the campers and their families. Horatio's family paid a loving tribute to him, describing him as strong, fearless, and kind, sharing that he was excited about his future and possible career in the medical field. He had an amazing sense of humor and was on the cusp of adulthood with a clear vision of where his life was going. In December 2010, the lives of hundreds of tourists were impacted forever. It was a bright day at the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. Families were laughing together and talking while others sunbathed and caught up on the latest novel. But the settling of the beach was nothing compared to the perfection of the water. The Red Sea contains some of the warmest temperatures in the world with a diverse array of marine life. There are more than 1,000 species of exotic fish and corals underneath the clear ocean water. On the 1st of December, while families were sunbathing and laughing on the shore, something deadly was lurking below the surface of the water, waiting. Tourists sprinted out of the water when they heard thrashing and screams nearby in the bay. As people were scrambling for safety on the pier, far from the shore, the sparkling, warm waters of the bay turned red. One man ran from the water with blood streaming from gashes on his leg. Another man, stricken with fear, couldn't bring himself out of the ocean and had to be carried out by rescuers. His hand was hanging by a pinch of skin and his foot was entirely gone. Olga Martsenko suffered wounds to her hands and legs, lower back and buttocks. She ran up to her husband, gasping for air as she repeated, "Shark, shark, shark." She fought the shark and eventually pushed away from it, but only after it had bit off her entire arm. As she was swimming towards the pier, it attacked again and bit off her foot. People started reaching for her to bring her onto the walk, but before getting out entirely, the shark bit into her left buttock. The people started fending off the shark with rubber fins as Olga laid in a pool of blood on the pier. The rescuers had yet to arrive at the pier and were racing over, but the people started to panic as Olga was losing more and more blood. One person thought to use their swimsuit to block the blood flow in the gaping wounds and grabbed a nearby subbed to carry her to shore. The victims were taken to the nearest medical center for immediate care, while back at the bay, resort and local officials tried to get a better understanding of what happened to the victims. The beaches closed and water sport activities were indefinitely suspended. The specialists from the Egyptian Environment Ministry found a 7.5 long oceanic white-tipped shark weighing 330 pounds. A local diver identified it as the shark by its damaged fin that he believed was caused by the resort's guests after Olga was rescued. However, some other divers and conservationists raised concerns. There was a photo taken before the attack of the sharks lurking around the bay, and the identified shark didn't look in any way similar. But their concerns fell on deaf ears, and everyone was optimistic that the attacks would end. Little did they know. Within 3 days, the authorities reopened the beach. Some of the guests decided to show caution and didn't enter the water. Some decided to swim. New guests who had arrived after the attack had occurred thought they would lose out if they didn't explore the glorious Red Sea waters. 71-year-old Renata Seifert was one of those people. She had been a regular traveler and guest and wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to swim. Shortly after she waded into the water with her snorkel gear, guests on the shore heard her screams. They looked towards the water and saw thrashing and dark red blood start to seep through the water. A lifeguard raced into the water immediately to bring her to shore and noticed that her arm was completely bit off. She was losing blood too quickly, and Renata was dead within minutes. Following Renata's death, the beach was again closed, and Egyptian authorities searched for shark experts to explain what had happened. These attacks were unprecedented, but the experts were able to study these attacks and found that the sharks who had caused the attacks, Makos and oceanic whitetips, were drawn to the area because of illegal animal carcass dumping nearby to the beach site. There had also been a steady depletion of prey in the area from natives overfishing, and experts noted the increased feeding to marine life by swimmers and snorkelers. We may never be able to wholly understand the power that nature holds over humans, but we can hear these stories and hope that we are never faced with the horrors others have experienced in the face of the most deadly creatures. Hi everyone, we hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more content like this, please watch our last video in the series, Awful Deaths Involving Water.